Okay, we're here with Robert Bowling, Infinity Ward's Community Manager. Creative strategist. Okay, we're here looking at Modern Warfare 3. Hi Robert, nice to meet you. First question, how did you decide on the overall setting of the game?
Well, Modern Warfare 3 picks up where Modern Warfare 2 left off. So from a story standpoint, it's really that payoff to, you know, the conflict that has been building momentum since Call of Duty 4 and the characters that we've been playing alongside and as since Call of Duty 4. I mean, we started out playing as Soap McTavish when he first joined the SAS, and we've seen him rise through the ranks of Task Force 141, and now this picks off where the fate of Task Force is unknown. They're either dead or on the run. And from a conflict standpoint, the war's escalated. It's moved up the Eastern Seaboard in New York. It's jumping over to Europe and spreading through all the major cities like London and Paris and parts of Germany and Africa and the Himalayas, and it's really going all over the world.
Okay. I heard Dan Fairbrass's voice in there, who played
Craig
Fairbrass, sorry, who played Ghost in the previous game. Have you also got Bill Murray again, who was Sergeant Price? Are you allowed to say?
Well, we're not confirming any voice talent yet, because that will inherently confirm certain characters that we don't know the fate of. So nothing yet.
Okay. Can you confirm whether, like Black Ops, it will have 3D support?
Not yet. We haven't announced any 3D support for Modern Warfare 3.
Right. Okay. And also, co-op through the single-player game. It's always, Call of Duty's always been a kind of heavy focus on the single-player experience. Have you ever? I know you've got the Spec Ops that's got sort of co-op play.
Right.
Have you ever sort of toyed with the idea of co-op play with the single-player, considering the way the nature of the single-player has sort of more than one character sort of on the same team playing?
Right. Yeah.
Is it a kind of possibility, or?
Not for Modern Warfare, and the reason why is we design each mode to have a very specific experience, and then we look at how we can enhance that experience by bringing elements of other modes into it. And so our single player is always designed to be a very single cinematic experience. You know, we want it to be a thrill ride for that one player. And then when we find moments that we think would be fantastic in co-op, or there's stuff we wanted to do that maybe just didn't fit into the story, that's when we take it out and we put it into Spec Ops mission mode, and allow it to just be all about the fun, all about that experience, and allows it to be a much more sandbox experience that you would want a co-op experience to be, rather than the more scripted. And then in addition to that, we have our Spec Ops survival mode, which is an entirely different experience. It's less of the single player, more of the multiplayer, because it's played on every multiplayer map. We're bringing in kill streaks, unlocks, progressive ranking, and allowing you to have multiple types and tastes of co-op experiences.
Yeah. Is survival mode playable as a single player? Like if you're offline, you can play it offline.
Yep. You can play survival and mission mode, solo, co-op, online, offline, split screen, however you want to play it.
Okay. One of my personal complaints with Black Ops was the multiplayer, playing with bots. The you had to be connected to Xbox Live to actually activate that mode.
Right.
Is that going to be the same sort of setup in Modern Warfare 3, or can you actually play offline, especially for the players that aren't connected to Xbox Live, who don't have the internet connection?
Right, yeah.
Is that going to be a possibility this time?
Well, we're not diving into detail on multiplayer just yet, but Spec Ops is our great training mode for all the multiplayer stuff. So you can jump on there, play that offline, play against, you know, AI enemies that are constantly throwing different tactics at you, using air support of their own, juggernauts that come after you. There's a huge variety of enemies that you can fight in Spec Ops survival mode, offline, solo, or with a friend if you want. And then obviously multiplayer, all our multiplayer modes have the ability to play, you know, split screen with friends and stuff like that.
Okay. Are there any differences between the 360 and the PS3 version? Has there been a sort of lead platform that you've developed it for?
No. The experience, you know, in terms of frame rate, gameplay experience, features, visual fidelity is going to be the same across Xbox 360 and PS3. And we, from day one of development, we focus on making sure that both platforms are getting equal time and are at the same quality.
Okay. Will Microsoft be sort of gunning for exclusive content again in terms of I know you're not talking about the multiplayer specifically, but downloadable content being exclusive to Xbox 360.
I believe Microsoft already has a partnership with Activision in general for the Call of Duty franchise that has been continuing since MW2.
Okay. Controversial question here. There's been a lot of talk between Battlefield 3, Modern Warfare 3, kind of versus each other. They're both releasing at the same sort of time. What's your kind of overall opinion on that kind of head-to-head of two massive franchises?
Well, I think, you know, we are, if there's anything that we're used to at this point, it's used to competition. I mean, every year we're going up against fantastic games every holiday season. So this is no different than any other year. But, you know, this year there's 2 great games coming out as well. There's more than 2 great games coming out. There are many great games coming out this season. But the great thing is all those games have very different experiences that they're delivering. And I think it's going to be great for people this holiday because they're going to have a lot of choice and a lot of variety when they sit down and play.
Yeah. Can you say any, other than the Spec Ops and survival mode, as far as a single player experience is concerned, are there any defining features that separate Modern Warfare 3 from the past game Black Ops?
There are a ton of things. I mean, everything from, you know, the big high-level stuff like Spec Ops Survival, which is something that's never been done before, the way that it's being done, of bringing all these multiplayer features into the co-op environment, but also in terms of just the scale of the single-player campaign. I mean, we're going, the size and length of the levels that you're fighting in, now that we're moving into the heart of major cities, into these very dense urban environments, is like nothing you've ever played in before. And multiplayer, we're doing a lot of really cool stuff. We're really building up from, you know, the Modern Warfare base of what multiplayer is and the style that we do, but changing the way kill streak systems work, adding in new modes, and a lot of really cool stuff that we'll dive into detail on later.
Okay, another sort of controversial question. You've got a lot of destruction in New York City. You're an American. 9/11 is still in people's minds. How do you feel that's been sort of portraying that in a video game? I know it's been quite a number of years since that event happened. What's your kind of view on, you've got it in a video game, how that's going to be perceived by the wider spectrum of people who maybe aren't video gamers?
Right. I'm not too worried about it because the conflict that's raging in Modern Warfare 3 is very different from any real life scenario, because this is a war. This is a full-on Russian military invasion of the entire U.S. that started in Modern Warfare 2. They have already disabled Washington, D.C., and the war has just organically been progressing up the East Coast, and New York is a major city that would... So it's very different because this is full-on military fighting through the streets. So I think, you know, that's going to be very clear once people play it and get hands-on and see what type of conflict this is, and then it spreads to the other major cities.
Right. Okay. Last question. Okay. Last question. I noticed in the demo of the London level, Mind the Gap, you've got an excellent section going through London Underground. I'm on my way home on the London Underground in a while, and I'm a bit scared to go on the London Underground now. How did you sort of capture that element of the Docklands area? How did you sort of map that out? Is it true to life? Did you send people down, or did you look at sort of Google Earth to get the kind of map correct?
It's a lot of different things that we use. I mean, we use Google View, Street View. We get maps. We get, you know, we're plotting out the playable area, the route we want to go, and then it's all about getting it as authentic as we can. From a legal standpoint and from you know, just a realism standpoint, and then we put that through a gameplay filter of like, okay, this is the area we want to get. Let's get all the reference photos, build it out how, you know, so when you see it, you're like, oh, that's Canary Wharf. That's you know, that's this and that, and then put it through the gameplay filter of like, okay, how can we make this fun for the player to play in? The routes they're going to take, the cover points they're going to use, the locations they're going to see, and because first and foremost, it has to be fun to fight there. Before anything else, but yeah, I mean, we put so much reference and time in then getting all the details right, so it feels very familiar to you.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, Robert, for your time for answering the questions, and
thank you.
we're definitely looking forward to this game like everybody else.
Awesome.
All right, thanks.
You.
All right, cheers.